Thanks for joining us for our special coverage on the ROK-TÜRKİYE MOU signing ceremony and the joint press conference by the leaders of the two countries. South Korea and Turkey are about to further tighten their strategic partnership through an official MOU signing ceremony. While we wait for that here in Seoul, I'm back with Professor Roshvan Ibrahimov. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And also, Professor and I are joined by Professor Oh Jong-jin. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, Professor, we are waiting for the official MOU signing ceremony. Now, we've touched upon the specific areas that the two countries are looking to tighten their cooperation on. What are some of the areas that we should really look forward to from the MOU signing ceremony?
I think they would look on to the so-called several mutual interest industries, such as defense industry, as well as renewable energy and some of the nuclear plants and defense industry and etc.
Well, which of these areas do you think the two countries are really prioritizing? Let's start with South Korea.
Okay, I think South Korea is prioritizing the enhanced cooperation in high-tech industry first, and the nuclear energy, as I mentioned, and defense sector in its partnership with Turkey. And the focus on the nuclear energy, especially the South Korean participation in Turkey's Sinop nuclear plant project, is a key strategic priority. As we have just mentioned from the previous, the first Turkish nuclear plant at Akkuyu is supposed to finish this year, but still there are not promising. And it's kind of a BOT weight. I mean, all Russian funded and Russian technology with the Russian operation. So I think the Turkish are totally out of this whole process. So Turkish are a bit disappointed on this what you call part. So that's why they are seeking for another
partner, maybe?
Yeah, partner that can really transfer the technology as well as the operation skill as well. So the alignment with the South Korea advanced capability is in nuclear technology, and its investment is exporting its expertise is also one of the important.
Right.
And then additionally is defense collaboration, as I mentioned before, including joint production of military equipment is a significant focus area, I think. And reflecting the Korea's growing defense industry and its effort to strengthen the geopolitical ties beyond the Korean Peninsula,
right.
I think this is the relation with Turkey is perhaps very important. So also high-tech sector and the digital transformation and artificial intelligence and biohealth, I think, also receive a considerable attention, matching South Korea's global technology leadership and desire to expand its industrial base through international partnership, such as Turkey. So overall, I have to say that South Korea is aiming to leverage its technological strength and the industrial capabilities to deepen strategic, economic, and defense ties with Turkey. So, while also supporting the Turkey's so-called energy security through the nuclear plant as well.
Right. Well, what about Turkey, Professor? What will top Turkey's interests among those?
Well, I already mentioned that Turkey tried to encourage new direction in own economy since it is middle income trap reality relating to the economy in order to push up and make a next step, increasing GDP per capita and so on. And so this is like concentrating on high technologies oriented industries. Of course, Korea is very good in that, and Turkey is attractive from the point of view of her geographical location.
Right.
Honestly, if to tell honestly about Turkey, Korea is very attractive because no any political agenda. Like comfortable to make some economic ties between the two countries. You know, Turkey tried to making similar cooperation with, for example, United States or, for example, with the European Union. But it's also agenda about like political issues, some preconditions, demands, and so on. So this is making things difficult. Yeah. For Korea, it is purely about economic cooperation, about the mutual advantage and development.
And very interesting, two countries also can see beyond their borders, as Professor ROK already mentioned, and also about economy. For example, construction field. You know, since 90s, Turkey very famous in Middle East region about construction issues, like when they do, like, for example, export-oriented economy during the Turgut Özal period, like liberalization and so on. One of the important sector with which Turkey started to be represented in her region, I mean Middle East, Central Asia, South Caucasia, and even Balkans, was construction. And now there is a new direction which Korea also can involve and cooperate, because this country is looking for a new perspective, new view, maybe some unique construction proposals, including also smart technologies. And so this is another kind of cooperation, like from one point of view, like familiar with region, and another with the technologies which can be proposed, and this can be very positive outlet for both sides. So Turkey, I think that definitely issue of how to fill the gaps in the fields of, let's say, making next step for introduction of high technologies and so on.
Well, I do have to say high technology, construction and infrastructure are something that South Korea is really good at.
And not only in this field.
Right. Well, let's delve deeper into the defense cooperation. How has the cooperation between the two sides been so far?
You know, Korea paid much attention for the development of own defense industry. And let's emphasize that if you have developed industry in this field, that means has multiply effect in development and other fields as well in industry, because the investment which you have in defense you don't have in anywhere else. So usually the know-how, research which developed in this field also have like implemented in other areas. And so Korea has first very big budget, and implementation provided by public and private sector. We have many achievements in this field, as well as especially when the President Erdogan came to power, they focused especially on development of defense industry in Türkiye. They have many achievements. We have followed news, and every week they announced some new achievements in this field. And of course, for example, if to take concrete project, Turkey for 10 years focused on development of new tank, Altay, it's called Altay. And for example, engine and some other equipment was provided by Korea. And just 2 weeks ago, first time 3 Altay tanks introduced and was delivered to the Turkish military forces, which is also means that Turkey getting more nationalized own national troops, which is important. And Turkey not only like focused on increasing percentage of national defense industry products for making equip own military forces, but also export-oriented. And it's growing. And we see the same situation with Korea. So this is also serious mutual cooperation, which also can making synergy for export-oriented products in this field.
Definitely. Then what is there for South Korea to offer to Turkey in the field of defense?
Yes, South Korea also has much to offer Turkey in the defense sector, especially because the needs and strengths of the two countries align complementary ways, I mean. So Korea has grown into one of the world's leading defense producer, capable of designing and manufacturing the advanced destroyers, submarines, and armored vehicles, and artillery system, and the aerospace platform as well. In fact, Korea recently proposed the Musca project to the United States, that an initiative that highlights the Korea's ability to build a global standard naval platform, and position itself as a key contributor to the maritime security in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. And this is particularly very meaningful for Türkiye, which traditionally views its navy as the weakest branch compared with the Army and Air Force. So Ankara has been actively seeking strengthening its naval capabilities, and Korea's proven expertise on warship and submarine construction could create a strong synergy with Turkey's long-term modernization goal. So cooperation could also, I think, go beyond the naval power. So-called Korea's next generation fighter program, the KF Borame, alongside with FA-15, the light combat aircraft, and T-50, the advanced trainer. All this represents the familiar, mature, and competitive of aerospace platform that could align well with the Turkish needs. So at the same time, I think Turkey is developing its own TFX, so-called the fifth generation fighter. But the program faces a significant limitation as well. Let's say a shortage of domestically produced air-to-air missiles and air-to-ground munitions. So I think the Korean defense industry, however, has made a very progress in the developing and widening portfolio of missiles and so-called the precision-guided weapons and advanced avionics systems. So this opens to I think the door for meaningful cooperation on weapons integration and system development that could directly support Turkey's aerospace ambitions. And there is also room to deepen cooperation in an area what both countries already experienced, as the Professor Roshan have mentioned. The Korea and Turkey has a history of working together on self-propelled howitzer and the tank technology, Altai tank, as mentioned. And these past collaboration could be expanded into more broader co-production or co-development program for the next generation. And Korea's strength is in system integration and high-tech manufacturing. And this combined with the Turkish industrial capacity and the interest in localization can create a strong foundation for deeper industrial partnership. So, well, Korea has some limitation of exporting its own defense assets to the other world, but Turkey has more free to do so. So Turkey can be another co-partner exporting to the third country as well.
That's a very good point. So there is a vast room for the two countries to collaborate in the field of defense or military technology. But when we're talking about MOU, what specific MOU do you expect to come out from this summit tonight?
Well, I think you mean including the defense industry or the whole in general?
In defense or military technology.
I think, well, definitely there will be some very critical defense industry collaboration, including the tank and artillery and munitions, as well as some radar system as well. So, and as I have mentioned just before about the so-called air power. Like, well, it's a huge project. I mean, when we talk about the next generation so-called fighter jet, like TFX collaboration or the Borame thing, etc. But I think these are also feasible areas that what we can collaborate.
Definitely. Then I like to turn to you, Professor Roshan. Like, isn't Turkey also pursuing energy diversification? I mean, what's the problem there?
Definitely. Like Korea, Turkey is an energy poor country, lack of own energy sources, but paradoxically located in a region which neighbors energy rich, oil rich, natural gas rich.
That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah. So the 70% of, let's say, oil and gas production happen in neighboring countries to Turkey. And Turkey, of course, needs more energy, and diversification proceed in several directions. I should say that clear energy policy started to be formed like last 10 years, because if to look like 10 years before, Turkey was dependent on one source on energy supply, it's Russia, like more than 60% of natural gas, big portion of oil imported from Russia. And of course, if you try to diversify for energy security, it's dangerous if you supply from one of the sources more than 25% of energy. So diversification started to be happen. Of course, new sources of natural gas started to be supplied, firstly from Azerbaijan. The Trans-Anatolian pipeline have been constructed. It's not only for Turkish market as well as for European market. So Turkey here plays not only as a role of main importer, but also transporter, transitor. This is also important part of their policy of diversification. Recently, like 4 or 5 years, Turkey concentrated all attention on making necessary infrastructure and capacity for import of liquid natural gas. Here also wide possibility of diversification.
Right.
Even gas from United States started to be supplied. Turkey started it late, but very, very energetic. Another part of diversification and energy security is providing storages for natural gas, which Turkey 5 or 6 years ago, they didn't have that. Yeah, because especially in the winter time, when the suddenly demand for natural gas increase, it's not easy actually immediately find the source. So Turkey also looking for that, and this is very important part of energy security. And we already told several times, mentioned about beginning of construction of nuclear electric station in Akkuyu. Turkey actually planned to build 2 more. Before it was discussed with Russia to build all 3 with this country, but now Turkey looking for more diversification, diversify the issues, because construction with Russia was cost cheaper and more affordable, but now it seems like better to diversify and diminish dependency, because energy is also subject of geopolicy, and Turkey pay much attention for increasing portion of alternative energy sources. This here, of course, traditional hydroelectric stations, and Turkey really rich about hydro energy, and also solar and wind energies stations started to be implemented more and more. So this is diversification like in source and also in routes. There are numbers of pipelines has been implemented in last 10 years over territory of Turkey, and not only for domestic market, but also for transporting to another markets. Turkey has planned to become a hub. The difference between hub and transit is that you deliver gas from one side, and you can expect or becoming a hub and center for dealing of gas, let's say, negotiation and trade. It's a little bit earlier, but they still have this plan, and it's possible actually, because you are crossroad of so many routes, and if they will be successfully implemented, there's a huge demand in Europe, because they are completely energy consumer, as in case of Turkey, and vice versa. Middle East, the countries which can provide big volume of different type of traditional conventional energy sources, but also there's a subject of alternative energy sources implementation. There are also numbers of projects implemented. For example, there's a project of under the Black Sea. It is Azerbaijan, Georgia, Romania, Hungary for exporting green energy, hydrogen energy, discussing it's like producing it's from, on the beginning stage it can be from natural gas. It is easier and cheaper, and in perspective maybe diversify, making blue gas, green gas, and so on.
Well, I'm sure this is where South Korean companies have to offer a lot in terms of green technologies. How can South Korean firms, apply their green energy technologies in Turkey's pursuit of green energy?
Yes, just like the Professor Ropshan mentioned, from the Korean point of view, green energy cooperation with Turkey is becoming more and more important. That Korea is trying hard to move toward the carbon neutrality, as we know.
Right.
And this increases the so-called renewable energy and secure stable energy suppliers for the future. Since Korea doesn't have a lot of natural space or resource for large renewable energy project, so working with a country like Turkey makes a lot of sense, giving them more opportunity, I would say. And Turkey has a potential in solar, wind, and geothermal energy. Well, as we all know, there are a lot of earthquake in then Turkey, so they have a potential of a geothermal energy as well. And it's this very key location in Europe, Middle East, and Central Asia. So for Korea, this means there's two important things. So access to the bigger renewable project and strategic partner that can link Korea to more important energy regions, to other regions, I would say. So if Korea wants to expand into areas like green hydrogen or the green fuels or long-term renewable imports, I think Turkey can easily become a major partner because its geography and growing roles as an energy hub, as just mentioned by the Professor Rovshan. So I think two countries also fit very well together industrially as well. So Korea has a strength in batteries, hydrogen technology, electric vehicles, and smart grid system, while Turkey has a strong manufacturing capacity and is pursuing to localize more of its energy sector. So there is a demand and also supply from our side too. So this creates, I think, a lot of room for a joint project between Turkey and Korea. So overall, I think I have to say that for a Korean perspective, the partnering with Turkey on green energy is not just an environmental effort. It's a strategic opportunity that supports energy security and builds a new industry and deepens the trust in a partnership at a time when global energy systems are rapidly changing these days.
Overall win-win situation for the both countries. Now, Professor Rovshan, I'd like to turn to you. South Korea and Turkey renewed a currency swap agreement for 3 years back in August. Now, do you expect any additional cooperation in, financial security or currency stabilization to come out this time?
Well, this is a good point because if to say honestly, the Turkish currency is not stable these days, and it is high inflation. Actually, in 90s, the period of coalitions, while 10 governments changed in Turkey, there was also preceded by high level of inflation and unstable Turkish lira. Very interestingly, that exactly the Erdogan government made it possible to decrease inflation and more stable Turkish lira, but again it's happened because it's maybe with more geopolitical assets in foreign policy, it's directly related. Yeah, of course, have such unstable Turkish lira and especially with the high level of inflation, investment risk and other issues for those who are coming to the market is relatively high. And of course, that's a good point that two countries like Turkey and Korea decided to make some kind of guarantee issue regarding what investment and how this investment will be like involved into this economic reality in order to decrease unexpected, unwanted developments. And Turkish government may provide more guarantees because we cannot say that is completely floating exchange rate, some kind of central bank intervention into the issues, and also like about guarantee that convertibility of Turkish lira into the, let's say, US dollar will be provided and guaranteed for the investors, and they will be counting the differences during, let's say, differences, I don't know what period of time, short term, middle term, and long term. Besides, both countries are members of WTO, even though these days WTO membership not really means much. That also should provide additional guarantee for free movement of capitals regarding of those benefits which Korean companies will receive from Turkish market. Because it is not only like investment exactly for Turkish market itself, because Korean investment, which has already existed, it is far vision. It is like towards the access to the European Union market, and it also should be provided without any risk and diminish any losses.
Right. Well, Professor Lofshan, I'd like to touch upon infrastructure too. I know that's something that Turkey is heavily interested in. Now, what kind of infrastructure would Turkey look for from South Korea?
You know, there are numbers of giant infrastructure projects already implemented, like 2 bridges in Istanbul.
Already ongoing.
Eurasia Tunnel, the projects which implemented by Korean technology, engineers, and direct participation on constructors. Here may be some collaboration, but of course that means, even though I told that Turkey is so good in construction field, that they are very actively involved in region for last 30 years, that shows that some high-tech oriented and less risky implemented projects, like in order to implement with less risks, Turkey always apply for Korean companies. Huge experience, many people already involved in this process. Of course, such projects always have follow-up. You know, currently Turkey is on the edge of developing own railroad structure, and we know how developed Korean railroads, which average speed can be achieved 250 kilometers. In some areas in Turkey, the speed on railroads still like 30-40 kilometers per hour, and they try to increase it. There's a special program of Erdogan government. I should say that before there was no such big attention on that. As well as, of course, smart cities, smart villages. I separated small cities from smart villages because still Turkey is not fully urbanized country, so of course the implementing and introducing smart villages will be also welcomed, especially for regions which has some diversified economy, like including tourism, agriculture, maybe some agriculture-based industry and so on. That will be very perfect possibility for cooperation in this field, and this is actually infrastructure. And I think that tunnels, canalization system, introduction of transport, smart administration also can be possible, like for introduction, especially in the big cities. And numbers of cities with more population, more than 1 million, several in Turkey.
Well, Turkey is definitely in pursuit of developing more smart cities, right? And now, Professor Oh, then, how advanced is South Korea in terms of offering those infrastructure technologies to Turkey?
Well, actually, considering the construction and infrastructure and so-called social overhead capitals, etc., as Professor Ropshan mentioned, Turkey itself has a certain level of technology in terms of so-called in the construction site and etc. But there is some gap between the Korean construction, which is Korea is good at designing and also the finalizing, and in some high-tech constructions, such as the towers or the bridge or the tunnels, for instance. So I think there are the space that two countries can collaborate, even in the construction field, which seems to be overlap, but it's not. I mean, there is a part that Turkey construction company is good at, and also there are some good Korean engineering or construction companies good at. So there are some, I would say that a technological gap that Korea can fill and cooperate in construction in the engineering field. In Turkey also, and for instance, beyond. So I always argue about that Korean and Turkish engineering and construction company not only operating in Turkey, but also in the third country like Middle East or Central Asia. The Middle East is a backyard of Turkey. I mean, so they know much better, and they know how to localize the local workers and the habits and the customs and etc. So when we cooperate with these assets of Turkey, who has some religious and cultural linkage, then Korea don't have to really think about that small, different cultural thing. Then they can directly involve into some technical designing and other fields. So yeah.
Well, so you mentioned South Korean firms are good at design. Then what are Turkish firms really good at?
Oh, they're good at the on-site construction.
On-site construction.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that exactly word in English because like when you do a construction and engineering, you have to have a plan, a 3D design, and etc. But you have also construction company that deals on-site with the whole production process, and Turkey is good at, and they have a huge experience in Middle East and Central Asia, and they are well experienced dealing with the peoples of the local workers and etc.
Well, that's definitely an area that we can look forward to the most. For those of us who are joining us, we are still waiting for the MOU signing ceremony and the joint press conference between the two leaders of South Korea and Turkey. Now, I am joined by Professor Rovshan. Now, walk us through how big Egypt is really in terms of GDP, economy, and population.
You mean Egypt?
Yes. Turkey, sorry.
Turkey. Yes, for Turkey, if we mentioned already in our first part of the news, it is G20 member, that means 20 biggest economy in the world, and during Erdogan administration, they achieved to surpass economy and join to the club of GDP trillion dollars, and currently it's GDP $1,320 billion. As because population is growing, so maybe the total number looks big, and it's actually big.
It is.
But GDP per capita is $15,000, which is also a remarkable achievement, because when Erdogan first he was a prime minister and then president in 2002, the GDP per capita was $3,000. That means since then it's increasing 5 times, which is a big achievement. And of course they plan to getting more and growing more, and economy needs, let's say, opening new fields, new areas which add value to production. Totally for export, if you talk about Turkish export, their add value production consists only 3% of total export, and also there's a paradoxical situation regarding to Turkish export, which started since the Turgut Özal period, as because export-oriented economy started to build that time, while the increasing export, at the same time import also increasing. And since that time, like 80s, it is already 45 or more years, import was always more than export of Turkish production. And it is directly interrelated, because if you want to export more, you need some devices or resources in order to produce more. And so Professor Roch already mentioned about localization. So in order to making at least balance or export, which will be like export oriented and also positive import-export trade over, you need, let's say, more localization depending on local resources or devices which will be produced exactly in Turkey, or let's say Turkish enterprises in neighboring countries or somewhere around. So this is also some kind of dilemma which current government try to solve, even though it is like not that successful. But if you look to the export numbers, it's seriously increased, very seriously increased, very seriously increased, that Turkey made a very huge, enormous efforts to do that. If in mid-90s total export of Turkey was $20 billion and mainly agriculture, now it is 10 times more. So also in 13 years, it is a big achievement.
Definitely. Well, there's that for Turkey. Then how far do relations between South Korea and Turkey really go back?
Oh, you mean in terms of Economic cooperation?
In terms of history-wise, the relationship between South Korea and Turkey, how far do we go back?
Well, I have mentioned before, well, we go all the way back to the 1,500 years between the Göktürk, so-called the Dolgol, and then there's Kingdom of Korea collaborating together politically, militarily, and economically. So, yeah, we do have some historical context from the previous, and then since then, of course, we didn't have that much context since most of the Turks went on the westward, busy expanding to all the way to the Constantinople.
They had to.
Yeah, but after the so-called the 20th century, and then the so-called the huge event of so-called Korean War, the many young Turkish men participating in the Korean War, I think this gave a huge momentum between the two countries. I think this momentum is very important in a sense that it gives an asset for both countries that we are going together in one direction, and we are somehow the friends of who fight together with certain enemies. So I think we have a legacy and history and story too. So and I think the upcoming in our MOU agreement, I think there are agreement between the Veterans Association. This is somehow that what the Korea can give a huge touch upon the Turkish people. Well, I think Korea is one of the rarest countries who really thanked for being helped by the outsiders. Well, there are many other countries in Asia or in Africa, but I think Korea is the exceptional case that really thanked to the country that helped them.
Right.
And for the Turkish veterans, I think there are very few left actually, but there are not only the veterans but also the families and descendants, and they are the huge asset of collaborating two countries together. And due to the so-called recent K-culture events and development, these youngsters, the descendant of so-called the Korean veterans, children are very much interested in Korean culture, and they want to study Koreans and have some so-called the future education opportunity.
Right.
So I think this agreement, even though there aren't many veterans left, we have to think about their families and descendants. So I would say that the Turkish sent about 24,000 troops, but from when? From 1950, I think the last time they went was 1979. So even after the Korean War, there are a certain number of the so-called the Turkish battalion left in Korea and served a certain mission of serving as a United Nations service. And so if you include them, I think we have a huge number of Turkish family and descendants who are combined together. And one interesting I would like to mention is that in Turkey, the father of Turkish Republic, the Kemal Atatürk, was the first one to give a surname to the all people. So since the 1923, the Turkish people started to have their own surname. But the interesting happened that after the Korean War, when Korean War finished, when Korean War finished, there are many so-called Korean War veterans changing their surname to Korean, Koreli.
Right. Well, that's an interesting history that I would love to continue listening to. But it looks like the MOU signing ceremony between the two leaders of South Korea and Turkey, they are President Lee Jae-myung and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. They are about to deliver their remarks and announce the outcomes from their talks, and that will include MOUs that the two countries will be looking to seal and realize in the coming future.
Kore Elektrik Enerjisi Kurumu KEPCO CEO'su Kim Dong-chol, Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Hükümeti ile Kore Cumhuriyeti Hükümeti arasında nükleer enerji işbirliğine ilişkin mutabakat zaptını imzalayacaklardır.
김동철 한국전력공사 사장님과
KEPCO CEO Kim Dong-chol and Türkiye Nuclear Power Company CEO will sign their MOUs on the cooperation of nuclear power cooperation.
İkinci anlaşma, Türkiye Cumhuriyeti adına Ulaştırma ve Altyapı Bakanlığı Karayolları Genel Müdürü Ahmet Gülşen, Kore Cumhuriyeti adına Kore Otoyol Kurumu ve Kore Yurtdışı Altyapı ve Kentsel Gelişim Kurumu adına Kore Cumhuriyeti'nin Ankara Büyükelçisi Jong Yeon-du, Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Ulaştırma ve Altyapı Bakanlığı Karayolları Genel Müdürlüğü ile Kore Cumhuriyeti Kore Otoyol Kurumu ve Kore Yurtdışı Altyapı ve Kentsel Gelişim Kurumu arasında mutabakat zaptını imzalayacaklardır.
정연두 주 트루키예 대사님과 트루키예 아메
ambassador to Turkey and his counterpart will sign on the MOU on the road infrastructure cooperation.
Üçüncü anlaşma, Türkiye Cumhuriyeti adına Aile ve Sosyal Hizmetler Bakanı Mahinur Özdemir Göktaş, Kore Cumhuriyeti adına Vatanseverler ve Gazi İşleri Bakanı Kwon Oh-eul, Türkiye Cumhuriyeti Aile ve Sosyal Hizmetler Bakanlığı ile Kore Cumhuriyeti Vatanseverler ve Gazi İşleri Bakanlığı arasında Kore Savaşı'nın anılmasında işbirliğine dair mutabakat zaptını imzalayacaklardır.
대한민국 권오울 국가보훈부 장관님과
the
트루키예
Veterans
마이누르
Affairs
özdemir
Minister
göktaş 가족사회
and
장관님께서
his counterpart
국가보훈부와 트루키예 가족사회부 간 6.25 전쟁 기념 상호 협력에 관한 양해각서에
they will sign
서명하시겠습니다.
on the MOU on the Korean War Veteran Affairs Cooperation.
Anlaşmaların imza töreni sona ermiştir. Arz ederim.
서명식을 마치겠습니다.
This concludes the signing ceremony.
Bastım ben buna.
Sayın Cumhurbaşkanı,
존경하는 대통령님,
Honorable President Lee
heyet üyeleri,
진행하는 수행원
değerli
여러분,
basın mensupları,
and dear
소중한 우리
delegation,
여러분,
bir duygularımla saygıyla selamlıyorum.
Dear
여러분 모두를
participants,
진심 어린 마음으로
Öncelikle
존중의
I
뜻을 담아
kıymetli
인사드립니다.
heyetine hoş
pay
geldiniz.
respect and would like to greet you all.
귀한 수행원
And
여러분께 환영의 뜻을
I would
전합니다.
also like to extend my welcome to President Lee and his delegation. After taking office, Mr. President Lee, I sent him the congratulatory messages, and also we had spoke on the phone. President Lee had faced a lot of difficulties ever since he was a child, and he has walked the path of endeavors, and he is a true leader of the country.
대통령님의 막중한
President Lee's
취임에 이 자리에서 다시 한번
inauguration, I would like to congratulate once again, and I hope you success. And I am very delighted to welcome you on your state visit to Turkey. And on this occasion, between our two nations, I believe that it had solidified our bilateral relations. The Korean people, I know, and we're very delighted to know that Korean people regard us as the brother nation. And we were standing shoulder to shoulder at the battlefields of Korean War, and we have dispatched 23,000 soldiers to Korean War, and taking this occasion, this opportunity, I would like to console the souls and the spirit of the fallen heroes, And the President and the delegation of Korea, they will pay respect to the war veterans in Ankara tomorrow, and I would like to thank them for this gesture. In 1957, we had tied the bilateral relations, diplomatic relations, and ever since we have cooperated, and in 2012 we have celebrated the strategic partnership relations, and in 2027 we are going to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the diplomatic ties, and I hope that we can develop and grow further in this bilateral relations and deepen this relations. And in trade, tourism, energy, transportation, science and technology, in many different domains, we have looked into ways for better cooperation. And in terms of AI and semiconductors, batteries, the innovative, renewable energy domains, we have a significant potential. And also wind power cooperation, we have signed a very significant MOU. Also, the plasma-related project, we have seen agreement together with South Korea. Republic of Korea is a very important trade partner in the Asia-Pacific region to Türkiye, and we have seen many advancements in trade between the two Koreas, between the two nations, and we have also stressed the importance of FTA. And Hyundai made new investments in the factories in Türkiye, which we welcome very much and which we are very satisfied by. And with this, the EV and industry, and with this, we are going to open up a new chapter of 100% production of EVs on our soil. And we are going to support all of the things that are needed by the Korean companies that are generating employment and good quality employment in Türkiye. And a case in point is a Altai tank project that is a success story, and as we all know, it had commenced last month. And in this domain, we're going to diversify. We want to diversify more in this regard and in this industry. And in the defense industry, we have discussed in a wide range of topics, and also the two countries' institutions are in close talks. Also, the KEPCO of Korea and nuclear power company that had signed an MOU today, we believe that this is a a significant advancement. And the both countries share a lot in common, and we are in agreements in many things like Palestine, Ukraine, Syria, and Korean Peninsula issues, and we have discussed in very in-depth in such international affairs. And G20, MICTA, and such international platform, the cooperation on these platforms will continue. Therefore, the Republic of Korea, the MICTA chairmanship that Korea is carrying on successfully, I would like to congratulate on that. And during G20, South Korea took the chair of MICTA, and during that meeting, we also had a chance to discuss, and we also took a family photo-like photo, and Korea, we welcome the Korea's diplomatic relations with Syria that took place in April, and I believe that this signals that Korea can cooperate in many areas with many different countries in the region. And the resolutions between the two countries that we support. In 1967, Palestine as a sovereign country, we believe that this is also a sustainable initiative, and to this end, Turkey, all the allies and all the brother companies, we are also requesting them to recognize this. Also for Ukraine, the diplomatic resolutions should be supported, and this is an unwavering standpoint of us. And as we all know, President Zelensky and President Putin, I am in close contact with both presidents. Including Istanbul process, we are going to exert efforts for peace in the global platform. And today is Teachers' Day in Turkey, and I heard that First Lady of Korea was here just a moment ago, and I would like to congratulate the Teachers' Day to the President Lee and the First Lady. Once again, I'd like to welcome the delegation of Korea and also the President of Republic of Korea, and I hope good health for all of them. Thank you. Hello. First of all, I'd like to express my deep appreciation to Honorable President Erdogan and to the people of Turkey for inviting me on this state visit and the warm hospitality to our delegation. This year marks the 75th anniversary of Turkey's participation in the Korean War, and it is also my first year in office as president, and it is truly meaningful for me to visit Turkey, our brother nation. Turkey has had a special relationship with the Republic of Korea even before we established formal diplomatic ties. When the Korean War broke out, afterwards, on this history, our bilateral relations had advanced rapidly ever since 1957. And in particular, in 2012, we concluded a strategic partnership, and we have been deepening mutually beneficial cooperation across all areas. And located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, Turkey has also served as a solid springboard for outstanding Korean companies seeking to enter the European market. Today, President Erdogan and I reviewed the progress of cooperation between our two countries and continued to grow stronger since the establishment of diplomatic ties, and we held in-depth discussions on how to further expand and develop our partnership. At the same time, we also had broad discussions on ways to deepen solidarity between our two nations amid changing regional and international circumstances. First of all, both countries strive to emerge as leading powers in defense industry, and we agreed to continue our cooperation based on mutual trust in areas such as joint production, technological cooperation, and training exchanges. Through this, we hope to create many more successful cooperation cases like the Altai tank project, strengthening the defense industrial capabilities of both countries and contribute to the promotion of peace and security. In the field of nuclear energy, we agreed that the two governments will pay close attention to provide support so the remaining detailed evaluation process for Turkey's new nuclear power projects can proceed smoothly. We hope that Korea's advanced nuclear power technology and its strong capabilities in safe operation will make a substantive contribution to Turkey's nuclear power development. In the biosector, I am pleased that a Korean company, SK Plasma, will participate in the blood product self-sufficiency project promoted by the Turkish government. Given that our two nations share what we call a blood alliance, this project carries even greater meaning. I'd like to take this opportunity to once again express my gratitude to President Erdogan for his interest and support for the participation of a Korean company. In the infrastructure sector, we took note of the exemplary infrastructure cooperation between the two countries as demonstrated by the Çanakkale Bridge and the Eurasia Undersea Tunnel projects. We also agreed that through the road project cooperation MOU signed, the two governments will continue to support and strengthen cooperation between Korea and Turkey in the field of infrastructure. Moreover, we agreed to deepen our strategic cooperation in advanced science and technology, including new and renewable energy, AI, and digital technologies. In this regard, Korean company CS Wind and Turkey's Enerjisa, the wind power cooperation MOU signing is very much welcomed. We hope that this will further strengthen private sector cooperation between the two nations in the field of renewable energy. Meanwhile, to comprehensively review and follow up on progress in the various areas of cooperation I mentioned earlier, we also agreed to resume our bilateral Joint Economic Committee for the first time in 10 years. I know that it is quite late, but we also say that when you feel it is late, that is the fastest moment. And as President Erdogan emphasized, the cooperation project, if it's delayed, it is better not doing it. So speed is all about the cooperation project, and I completely agree with him. President Erdogan and I also exchanged broad views on a range of global issues, including the Korean Peninsula and the situation in the Middle East. I'd like to express my gratitude for President Erdogan and the government of Turkey, its consistent support for our policy toward North Korea. For our part, we highly appreciate President Erdogan's efforts to promote peace in the Middle East. And at the same time, I would like to thank him for his efforts. In addition, I find great significance in the fact that on the occasion of my state visit, we decided to bolster humanitarian assistance to help resolve the issue of Syrian refugees in Turkey. To further deepen the bonds between our peoples, which are the strongest asset in our bilateral relationship, we also agreed to further invigorate people-to-people and cultural exchanges. In Türkiye, interest in Korean culture and Korean language, especially through OTT platforms, is spreading rapidly, and in Korea as well, appreciation of Turkish food, culture, and arts continues to grow, and I am truly pleased about this. Thanks to Turkey's abundant tourism resources and Korea's cultural appeal, the number of tourists traveling between the two countries is steadily increasing. Building on this, we hope that through the activities of our cultural centers and Korea's international student programs, mutual understanding between our younger generations will be enhanced and exchanges will become even more active. We also agreed to continue strengthening our cooperation in veterans affairs. I believe that through the MOU on veterans cooperation between our two governments that had been signed, as you just seen, support for the families and descendants of war veterans will become even more solid in the future. Through today's talks with President Erdogan, I have become confident that the friendship between our two countries and our strategic partnership built on that friendship will continue to grow stronger and be carried forward to future generations. The Republic of Korea, as a brother country to Türkiye, we will do our utmost to ensure the faithful implementation and the swift implementation of the agreements that we reached at today's summit. In this regard, it is especially meaningful that on the occasion of the first visit by a Korean president to Türkiye in 13 years, we are adopting and announcing a joint statement on the strategic partnership between the Republic of Korea and the Republic of Türkiye, which encompasses our comprehensive cooperation. I am confident that this joint statement will serve as a valuable roadmap for the smooth implementation of all the matters discussed at today's summit. Honorable President Erdogan, and also the people of Türkiye, I wish good health and happiness, and I hope that the brother nations, the two nations, the unwavering friendship between our two nations. Thank you.
So that was the MOU signing ceremony and the joint press conference on the summit between the leaders of South Korea and Türkiye. Now, back here in the studio, I'm joined by Professor. Oh, now, what did you think of the MOU signing ceremony? Did you expect to come out as you thought?
Yeah, there are several sectors, but also there are some new sectors as well. But I think if you make it into maybe three important pillars, I have to say that the energy sector, social overhead capital sector, which is infrastructure, and the veterans, which is more or less focusing on the humanitarian issues. So I think it's well balanced. Not two countries are just seeking for the benefit or economic interest, but they are doing more beyond the economic cooperation and so on. And I think the agreement that MOU they have mentioned among them is, I think, the so-called nuclear energy cooperation. Well, Turkey wants to expand its energy mix and build more long-term reliable power sources, while Korea has world-class nuclear technology and global experiences in construction and operation as well. So if two countries move forward, I think it could become one of the most meaningful long-term partnership between them. I would like to emphasize long-term because the nuclear power plant is not about the 5-year or 10 years program. It's about 50 years. I mean, you are constructing and you're operating. So I have to say that, I mean, you are building nuclear plant with enemy? Come on.
Right.
You have to do it with friends.
Right, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so considering with the other cases, I mean, the second case will be with the friends, which can be more reliable and perceivable. Yeah. So I think for Korea, I think it is a huge chance to take a part in a big so-called strategic project like nuclear. And for Turkey, it's a way to secure stable and clean energy for the future and for the industrial energy as well. So in simple terms, I have to say that the defense and nuclear energy are the two deals that really define this MOU package. And they match the both country needs, and they have a potential to grow in major pillars of Korea-Turkish relation in upcoming years, I would say.
Well, Professor Ofshan, was there any MOU signing that surprised you by any chance?
You know, since the President Lee took the office, not much time passed. It was 120 days.
Right.
And it's understandable that both sides choose the document as memorandum of understanding, because it's more framework type of document. It's according to international law, and it's not need ratification actually. It is very general framework, which is like have option and corridor for further detailed discussion and development. Yeah, it seems that when the President Lee decided to visit Turkey, so both sides very rapidly and actively working on what common points they can negotiate and agree. And so, of course, we discussed today all these subjects like infrastructure. More, it is, you know, Minister of Transportation representing Turkish side, and even, you know, Korean side was represented by Ambassador of Korea in Turkey. So that means that even maybe last moment memorandum, it shows like Minister of Transportation of Korea did not participate in this meeting.
Right.
And so it is shown that, yes, Turkey expressed big interest in development in this field as well. And we already discussed that, yeah, this field of nuclear cooperation, also it is memorandum of framework, it will be discussed, because there's no clear picture about how it will be continuous for Turkey itself. They negotiate with numbers of countries which can implement this project. There are not many countries which can do that, and of course they try to build 2 more nuclear stations, and maybe like each with the different partners, not only with one partner or simultaneously this time. So in the perspective, I think that maybe contacts will be more intensive, not only on the presidential level, but also on different ministerial and other offices. So this shows that memorandum understanding, this is like roadmap for continuous relationship between the two countries.
You know, things happen on the working levels first, so that's a meaningful step. Yeah, exactly. Now, I do have to mention, Professor O, South Korea and Turkey also resumed their joint economic bilateral committee in 10 years. Now, this is something that they had to resume in, for the first time in almost a decade. Now, do you think summit and agreements like this will serve as a turning point in South Korea-Turkey relations?
Well, as we have just mentioned, right now, today, we signed an MOU, means a Memorandum of Understanding. So actually, MOU shows the good intention, but it doesn't guarantee the real action. So I think if both side doesn't follow up quickly with the concrete plans, and the initial moment can fade out. So I have to say that to make this deal real strong and follow up is very crucial, I have to say.
Definitely.
So both countries need to set up the joint working group. I think this is perhaps the next level that can meet regularly and check up the progress. So I think we need more clear timelines and milestones that can help everyone on track. So it is important to bring the private sector also into this conversation early as well, because in the end, company will actually be the one who carries this project.
Right.
So we have umbrella of MOU which can guarantee to move on to the forward, but I think we need to do more detail for upcoming.
It is a good step, but we do need detailed steps to make sure that these, agreements do get implemented for further cooperation. Now, Professor Ovshan, I want to end with you. Where do you see South Korea-Turkey relations in 10 years based on the outcome of tonight's summit?
We are, as political scientists, we really don't like to predict in 10 years and so on, because it's so long, and we don't have, as fortune tellers, some crystal ball in order to look at and predict. We try to make it from scientific point of view, and you need more information, more facts, and based analyze on that. Nevertheless, what we can say from point of view today, and this is the vision of both leaders, like things will be more faster, more intensive, and diversify. Because both countries has capacity for that, and also this is the trend of modern world, globalized world, like things getting faster, intensify and diversify, and actually two countries also have wish that this dimension and trend will be going on in such a way.
All right, Professor Ibrahimov, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for inviting.
And also a big thanks to you, Professor Oh. I really appreciate your insight and your time tonight.
Thank you for your invitation.
Of course. And we also thank you for staying with us for a special coverage on the ROK-TÜRKİYE MOU signing ceremony and the joint press conference. This has been Kim Dami. Goodbye.